Good evening, everyone, and welcome to week 10 of season 30 of TGP2. And as you can see, we are currently at the Marina Bay Street Circuit in Singapore. And later on, we'll be going to another street circuit in Albert Park in Melbourne, Australia. Two very challenging tracks for the drivers to deal with tonight, and Singapore could be one of the longest races of the season, probably the longest, because not only is it a very slow circuit, but the potential for safety cars is incredibly high. Currently in qualifying, Wet Lemons has provisional pole by quite some margin, over 6 tenths of a second over his teammate Parsa. It's a Ferrari 1-2 at the moment. Championship leader Camo Babo, he's got a 21-point lead in the championship, currently on an invalid lap, so he's going to go into the pits, so he'll only have one more attempt to move himself up onto pole position, or at least ahead of Wet Lemons, but of course he does have a bit of a cushion, but still qualifying around Singapore can be quite important. Joining me tonight is two-time TGP1 champion Jean-Luc Taylor, aka Johnners. Good evening, John. How are you?
Good evening, Roy. Yeah, I'm doing well. Excited to see how the racing's going tonight. Of course, as you've mentioned, two street circuits, two very challenging street circuits. Singapore, I would say, is the most challenging of all, and it's going to be interesting to see how these TGP2 drivers contend with the streets of Marina Bay. And it's going to be interesting to see how it goes for the championship as well, as it's getting awfully close at the top.
It is indeed, yeah. So, still, not so many races left in the season, but can't quite call it just yet. Wet Lemons has a little bit of work to do with that 21-point deficit, but he's doing everything in his power at the moment, certainly, to start to overhaul that gap. So I believe we've Parsa on a lap. Now, can his teammate provide a bit of inconvenience? Now, he will have to find 6 tenths of a second, so it's not going to be easy for him. And you can see we've had a few drivers already out of the session. I believe they were all crashes, unless Indecisive Mackie retired in the pits. But Singapore proving to be very, very challenging. Blair Grill's yet to set a lap. Track limits is another thing to watch out for at this circuit, so it really throws everything at you. And we'll see how Parsa gets on. He's currently in the second sector. Didn't quite catch his first sector split, but Parsa, he does enjoy qualifying when he does make it to the end of it. He tends to excel in these sessions, but around the former Singapore sling and then the chicane afterwards, which, to be honest, I don't know about you, but I feel like they've made this layout worse when they implemented that new chicane after the Singapore sling.
Yeah, I think it's just a bit clumsy, to be honest. I prefer the older way. It's a bit quicker. You went on the other side of the bridge as well, and it kind of opened up the following corner as well. It wasn't so tight to turn into the left-hand or onto the back straight. And in honesty, I missed the Singapore sling as well. It is quite fun to just throw the car in and have it bounce around, but of course it does your back in a bit, so I can see why they got rid of it.
Yeah, I think the drivers were very happy to get rid of it. I found a little trick though to basically just go around the middle curb, but that worked as well. As long as you kept wheels on the curb, you're fine. Parsa crosses the line. He finds 4 tenths of a second, which should be quite good in terms of securing himself a front row spot, unless the others also find a large chunk of time. Track evolution around here though is quite big, so maybe Parsa's not quite out of the woods yet. That front row could still be under threat. Camo Babo will certainly hope that he is the one who puts it under threat. He's still on an outlap at the moment. Actually, he's only just gone on that outlap. He's got plenty of time, he's fine. But have we got anyone on a lap at the moment? M. Shep has invalidated his lap, as has Jacko, and we've got Blair Grails who finally sets a lap, and it's good enough for P4, so he'll be quite happy with that after taking about 16 and a half minutes to actually put a lap on the board. Slightly reduced field tonight, with a few drivers missing, but we do believe we will have more for race 2. But Blair Grillson, I think he's going again. He doesn't have a whole lot of deployment, but there's a lot of heavy braking around here, so you will regenerate quite a bit. But he's clearly keen to improve further.
Yeah, I was just going to point out Daniel P. Will, not P5 at the moment. He was on a lap, improving in Sector 1, which even the slightest improvement would get him on the second row, but he did just invalidate on the exit of turn number, I believe it's turn 5 at the start of Sector 2. So he's backed off. I think that's his session done. And I think that's the same for Parsa as well. as we're about to run out of time here in qualifying. So Blair Grill's still going. Let's see how he does. Of course, there's a couple of other people around. Camo Babo's about to start his final lap, as is Mick Schumacher. So the first one across the line, I think, will be Blair Grill's. I haven't seen his second sector time, but he is still validated the lap. We have an Alfa Romeo out. That is going to be the sole Alfa Romeo Jacko, so he's done for the session in P8. Hopefully won't get in the way of the cars starting their final lap. We've got another yellow in sector 3, but I think that's just a car in the pits more than anything. So Blair Grill's going to come to the line, comes around the final corner now, and he is an improvement into third place. So he's actually ahead of Camo Babo, so that is a solid lap for Blair Grylls. But on the second lap on the tyres, it is pretty heavy on tyre wear around here, so that could compromise him in the race a little bit early on.
He'll be hoping for a safety car, certainly in the early stages of the race, if his tyres do wear. And Wet Lemons crosses the line, finds another 4/10 of a second. He's on pole by 3/4 of a second. Let's see what Camo Babo can do. He is in the second sector. I think we've also got Chris Johnson. I think Chris Johnson will cross the line before him. So let's see. Chris Johnson doesn't really excel in qualifying, but he's currently P9. And he's got Jacko, who's certainly not going to improve. There's no driver apart from Camo Babo in front of him that's going to improve. So Chris Johnson then crosses the line, P7, slightly higher than we normally see him. So I don't think he'll be too displeased with that. Camo Babo then, he's only got 2 more corners to go. Effectively 1. It's a double apex left-hander. Camo Babo then across the line. Doesn't derate like a lot of other drivers, and it's second place. But he's still half a second away from Wet Lemons, but that won't really matter too much right now because it's all about the race. That's where the points are scored, and he's on the front row. He is where he needs to be. Mick Schumacher then, I think, is the final car. He's coming into the pits, so he will play no further part in the session. So Wet Lemons then, with a very impressive lap there, dominating over the field.
Yeah, of course, Wet Lemons made his debut in TGP1 last night. Normally, TGP2 and TGP1 run together, but there's just a little overlap this season. So a couple of the TGP2 guys have moved up to TGP1, such as Lemons and last season's champion Theo Hickman. Both of them getting solid top 5 results in their first night as well. So good performance by both of them. That's also crucial for Wet Lemons for the championship because, of course, he's coming into this week 21 points off Camo Babo, so it's a good opportunity for him to cut that gap down. Our 2 title contenders, of course, on the front row. Passes P3 ahead of Blair Grylls in 4th, Daniel P. Willnight 5th, Maya Quemby 6th ahead of Chris Johnson, M. Shep Jacko and Mick Schumacher round off the top 10, with Mackie and Red Bull Kim 11th and 12th, and the last of the guys to set a time. Kaya, Saya Sports and Stereogram didn't set a time and will be at the back of the grid.
And just in case anybody is wondering why Mayor Quenby is now Malaysian, I don't know either.
From what he said, obviously he took part in TGP1 last night. He was representing... he said he was representing Alex Yoon, the former Minardi Formula 1 driver from the early 2000s. So, a bit of an odd decision there, but, you know...
Mustn't have been rating his pace very highly then.
Well, of course, he was celebrating not being last in the qualifying in Bahrain, so there's that. But a better performance for... Yeah, a better performance for him here, though. He's in the top 10, so... We come towards the race then. It's looking like a dry start. We don't know if there's any rain in the air. It'll be interesting to see what happens as we're about to get underway.
Singapore then, always one of the highlights of the season. The lights are beginning to illuminate on the gantry. Soon they will be out. And here we go then in Singapore, and we don't have a starter on the second row. It's an Aston Martin of Blair Grylls not getting off the line, but Camo Babo then with a brilliant start. Parsa then making contact with his teammate and forcing Wet Lemon slightly off the track there. So not a lot of love here at Ferrari. So Parsa then moves himself up into second. It's a disaster for Wet Lemons. Well, not a disaster, but it's a pretty poor start from Wet Lemons, losing 2 places at the very beginning. Mark Quemby then, he's got a bit of momentum on these 2 Ferraris up ahead. Let's go on board with the Mercedes driver. Can he clear one or both of them. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to do it. So Camo Babbo then, the more these two Ferraris start squabbling with each other, the better it is for him, and he can build up a bit of a lead as we have a spin for Parsa. So Parsa then, perhaps Wet Lemons will be thinking that's a bit of karma for pushing him off at the start. We have a virtual safety car to calm things down after a hectic few corners for some of these drivers.
Yeah, very bold of Parson to go wheel to wheel with his championship chasing teammate like that. I always had a repeat of Singapore 2017 there with the two Ferraris into the start at the start, but Parser, normally out of the qualifying by crashing, has unfortunately decided to bring that into the race this week, so that's a shame for him, but that opens the door for Wet Lemons to chase down Camo Babbo. Of course, a virtual safety car means the field isn't going to fully bunch up. The gaps will maintain the same as we are back underway already. That's a very short VSC, but Camo Babbo already with a 2-second lead, and that's going to be pretty crucial. It's going to let him stay out of the DRS zone. He's going to be able to control the pace a little bit, manage the ERS, so prime opportunity for him to extend his championship lead here.
Yeah, and Merrick Quenby, he tends to prefer the race, and Wet Lemons then must have damage. That must be why he's falling so far back. So Wet Lemons then opting to pit at the start of this race, at the end of lap 1. I suppose if he was going to lose time to Camo Babbo, he may as well try something different, I guess, but he's going to have to hope that there's another safety car or virtual safety car where he can gain some of that time back. But yeah, surely he's got damage. See if we can see him in the pits.
Yeah, there was a front wing change. I've spotted it. So there's definitely damage to the Ferrari. I think both of them may have got slight damage at the first corner with the briefest of taps, because Parser was understeering quite a lot into turn 3, just onto the straight before the accident. So,
or maybe the accident caught. Maybe he might have hit the back of the spinning Ferrari ahead of him.
That could be the case. So yeah, that could be the case indeed.
Now it's a disaster for Wet Lemons. P1 to P3 is not quite a disaster, but P1 to P12, when there's only 14 cars in the race, is not great. So he'll be hoping for another race interruption later on. Mshep doing very well, currently up in P4. We have an incident at the back. We have a spin, and it's Chris Johnson, the man we know for not getting involved in incidents and keeping himself clean during the races, is now dropped to P10 after a spin. We've got Theo Hickman joining for race 2, so watch out for that later on. But now we're going to focus on what we're seeing on track. Indecisive Mackie finds himself in P6 with Sayer Sports all over the back of him. Not really a lot of places to overtake in this final sector, but the Haas driver certainly looks to be the quicker man right now.
Yeah, Joe's had a very good start to the race. Of course, he didn't actually set a time in qualifying, so he was down in 14th place out of 15 drivers, but he's already worked his way up to 7th. And he's only really gained one spot from people pitting as well, with Wet Lemons having pitted. So he's also on the mediums as opposed to most others in front, well, all the others in front on the softs. So he's definitely one to watch out for. I think he's gone well here in the past as he's demonstrating at the moment, because he's definitely quicker than the Alpine of Mackie in front, who's just slightly tapped the wall, I think, or that might have been me being slightly laggy.
I saw a bit of lag there as well, as the car kind of teleported a little bit to the right. It all seems under control now though. So Sayer Sports then up into P6, and I think Kaya has had a crash in the final sector at the, well, effectively the penultimate corner. But I will say though, the gap at the front is now just 1.1 seconds. Well, 1.1, 1.2. It's certainly a lot smaller than it was in the past. And Kaya then, I think he may have understeered while coming into the pits. That looks like a pit wall crash from what I can see on the map. I would spectate, but it doesn't actually let you do that once they've retired. But will this bring out some kind of safety car or virtual safety car? I think normally they call it by now, so I don't think we're going to get one. We're just going to get a local yellow flag. But Mayor Quenby then, he always says he prefers the race to qualifying. So
Stereogram's off as well.
Stereogram, also another DNF then at the start of the final sector, and we've got a virtual safety car, which is perfect timing for Camo Babbo and Mayor Quenby to come into the pits. And I think Camo Babbo was a bit braver on that pit entry. Wheelnut also opting to pit. He will maybe have to queue just a little bit. Let's have a look. Not too much. He probably only lost about a second there, actually. So that's not too bad from Wilmot. Certainly the right decision, though, to pit under the VSC. Has anyone stayed out? M. Shep and Sayer Sports and Chris Johnson, for whatever reason, have decided to stay out. They must be hoping for an actual safety car later on in this race. But M. Shep then leads the race for, I believe, the first time this season. So let's see what he can do with a bit of clean air out in the lead. But Camo Babo then, he's only dropped to P4 after making his pit stop. Wet Lemons will not be happy about that, because even if a safety car does come out, there's still going to be a huge...
He's gone off.
He's gone off.
Wet Lemons has gone off at turn 2. I don't know if he's got damage, but he was facing the wrong way right up against the barrier. So he's going from bad for worse for the Ferrari driver. I think he might. I can't see any damage, but he seemed to be struggling a bit into the corner.
Mick Schumacher did gain a good bit of time on him. Obviously he's got DRS right now, so the gap will come down, but let's see what he's like through the corners. Mick Schumacher is normally a bit slower than the Ferrari of Wet Lemons, and Mick Schumacher is kind of not really making life easy for himself. A bit of understeer and overspeed, but
I think
how's he compared to Jacko?
I think he might be okay, because he's taken a few attempts out of Jacko. It's difficult to say. I don't know if it's just him getting the tyres back into the right window, getting the dirt off him, but I think he's alright. The gap's come down slightly. He might have just got away with that, but he's lost a lot of time in the process, because I think he was just ahead of Jacko as M. Shep pits from the lead and gets a penalty for speeding.
There was no benefit to doing that. I don't really see. Sayer Sports is on the mediums, so it does make sense for him to stay out, and hopefully for his sake he will be getting a safety car later on in this race. I mean, I certainly wouldn't rule it out. We've already had 3 drivers crash in the first 5 laps. Well, first 4 laps really for most of these drivers. And actually, is that another driver joining the list? Blair Grills certainly has crashed. He's not DNF though. He's sheared his front wing off, but he's still in the race.
Yeah, I thought for a brief moment he was going the wrong way. It was just the camera deceiving me because of the way the tunnel is. But he's lucky not to have retired. It's obviously going to leave him rooted adrift at the back. Interestingly, Owen lost 2 seconds under the VSC and the pit entry to Camo Babo. He's already got that back. Oh, hang on. No. Camo Babo's passed Chris Johnson. It's still half the gap, though. It was 3.1. It's now 1.6. And I think that would be DRS for Owen as well to close up to the Aston Martin in front. That's still yet to pit.
It's also DRS for Chris Johnson though, but Owen should... bit of a twitch there from the Mercedes on the exit, but he will have the pace over Chris Johnson, but he's caught him at the worst possible time. You don't really see any kind of overtaking in this sector normally, unless there's a massive tyre advantage, and don't get me wrong, Owen certainly has a tyre advantage, but it's not that big. So Chris Johnson then will continue to hold him up. Does Chris Johnson decide to pit? No, he doesn't. Not entirely sure where the strategy for Chris is leaving him here. He's kind of in no man's land. Mark Quemby then getting slightly out of shape, giving Chris plenty of room as he goes down the inside. And Mark Quemby then is up into P3, a net P2 of course, with Sayer Sports yet to pit. Sayer Sports has picked up a penalty that I presume is track limits.
Yeah, it was indeed. He got it just at the end of the previous lap, so that's not going to help him out at all really. Joe would be hoping for a safety car in all honesty. The VSCs definitely haven't helped him with the alternate strategy. The only one that was on the alternate strategy, I believe, as well. So it's a brave gamble to take, knowing how frequent safety cars can be in street circuits. But position is everything, as they say. As Joe's getting caught pretty quickly by the net race leader, Camo Babo.
Yeah, so Joe will be hoping for, well, a safety car, of course, but, well, the field is quite spread out, though, so I don't know, if he's got a bit of pace, then he won't find himself rejoining in any battles, really, so he will have the tyre advantage at the end, but I still don't think it's worth it, because I believe pit lane loss around here is quite significant, because it's a very slow pit lane, so, yeah, I think Well, I mean, he was on the mediums though. I feel like he kind of had to stay out because he was not going to get the softs to last that long. So
No, he wasn't.
even the mediums may be a bit rough towards the end. But Sayre Sports opting to pit now. Um,
That's
there's
interesting.
there's some bizarre calls going on today. I've got to say, I would have stayed out until at least lap 10.
Yeah, I think I would have as well. Red Bull Kim's overshot the corner into the start of sector 3. No damage done for him. He'll keep going on his way. No loss of position. Yeah, Joe's on the softs as well, and it's a front wing, so maybe that was the reason.
Yeah, he must have hit the wall in that final sector on that lap.
Because I was gonna say he. Oh, apologies. I was gonna say he was. Oh. Well, he was gonna come out with Wet Lemons, but Wet Lemons has thrown it away.
And he's thrown it away. Oh!
At the same place he spun a couple laps ago.
Yeah, and Sayre Sports making contact with the Aston Martin Alpine, as he exited the pits. Hopefully that's not more wing damage for him. Sayre Sports then with a big pace advantage over M-Shep. But of course his tyres will not be very nice towards the end of this race. Does he decide to throw it down the inside here? He thought about it as M-Shep. Oh no! M-Shep overshoots the corner, hits the wall, and then Sayre Sports has nowhere to go and hits M-Shep. And now Indecisive Mackie is up into P8. And we now only have 11 cars in this race. M-Shep with terrible front wing damage. Indecisive Mackie not quite sure how to manoeuvre around them. But yeah, that's M-Shep and Sayre Sports. It's such strong starts to the race, but it's all coming undone.
Yeah, Indecisive living up to his name a bit there and not really sure what to do.
Owen's leading.
Oh, well, we've missed that.
Okay.
How's that happened?
What happened there?
I can only assume there's been a mistake of some sort that we obviously weren't expecting, because all of a sudden the caps are swapped around. But Owen was going pretty quickly compared to Camo Babo after the pit stop, so maybe Owen's just a bit more comfortable with the way of the circuit, the grip that he's got, the medium tyres, so maybe it's a genuine overtake. DRS can be pretty strong in the first sector, but Camo Babo, even if it was a mistake by Camo Babo, it hasn't cost him too much time, only a couple seconds. But
he's still in play,
no damage.
Yeah. And he's just seen Wet Lemons retire from the race, so I don't think he's going to be too displeased with P2, especially his championship lead will be quite large at the end of this. I think Wet Lemons will be on for 3 points compared to Camo Babo with 18, so 21 plus 15 is 36. So he'll be pretty happy with that.
Yeah, on top of that, Daniel P. Wilnut will only be a small handful of points behind Wet Lemons at this point as well. He was only 36 down coming into the race. I think he'd be 39 points down, so if my maths is right, he's only going to be 3 off Wet Lemons in the championship. So we've got a three-way fight at this point.
We do indeed. Maybe we'll need a bit of bad luck from for Camo Babo to stop him running away with it, but I mean, it's been a long season. He's missed some races, so he's put himself in this position. So fair play to him. But yeah, the others would be hoping for a bit of intervention, perhaps. But yeah, Daniel P. Wilnut having a pretty quiet race. He's very isolated there. He's nearly 9 seconds down on Camo Babo. He's 13 seconds clear of Jacko, who's also just kind of having a race of his own, quietly going about his business in P4. Mick Schumacher having quite a good race in P5. To point out, it is not the actual Mick Schumacher, it is Marco, but he's decided to go with that as his PSN name. But Chris Johnson then, despite his bizarre strategy call, currently running in P6. You have to say, it probably should have been close to P4 had he just decided to pit with everyone else. Indecisive Mackie then in 7th. I don't think he'll be too displeased with that. I think the closest battle on the track is actually the one that is for the lead. But Camo Babo not really making any inroads, although it is quite hard to do with the dirty air.
Yeah, on top of that though, he's actually on for a personal best at the moment, so I think Owen is just genuinely a bit quick around here at the moment. You can see the confidence in Mercedes in the corners. You can see Camo Babo's just a little hesitant in places, a little bit of understeer, but the Mercedes just looking really good, very planted, hits the apexes, it's going where Owen wants the car to be, and as you can see, he's pulled out 6 tenths in that final sector alone, so he's broken the DRS now of the Alpine behind, and is looking good for race victory.
It is looking quite good, but it is worth pointing out Owen's made a slight habit of crashing towards the very end of the race. So I'll keep a bit quiet on that. But for now, of course, yes, it does look promising. But he does of course have to finish the race first. But still time for a safety car. Not that I think will actually matter too much for Owen or Camo Babo, because they'll be able to, they'll be able to, clear away from the field again, because these two are just kind of having their own race out in front, and Mayor Quemby's not going to be too concerned about an overtake from Camo Babo, because, he was within a second for a good few laps, and nothing happened there. So, beginning to spread out a little bit, but actually Mick Schumacher was overtaken by Chris Johnson. Chris Johnson's currently up in 5th.
Yeah, Chris got him on with the DRS in the pitch straight down the inside, nice and clean. Did pick up a 3-second penalty just beforehand, so he's going to need to build a gap, but he's already a second and a half clear. So I think he's going to do that pretty comfortably. 4 lap fresher tyres, according to the tyre indicators. M-Shep's just got Blair Grills in the same way at turn 1, down the inside, nice and clean for P9. So that's another overtake as well, although like Chris Johnson, M-Ship's got to make a 3-second gap because he's got 6 seconds of penalties and Blair's got 3 seconds of penalties.
Yeah, he cut the penultimate corner on his way, so maybe that helped him get that run. So I suppose, well, if he's going to take the advantages, then I suppose we'll get the penalty for it. But well, that was the closest battle on track. Everyone's kind of spread out once again. Not quite sure we're going to see much of a battle. We still have nearly 5 laps of this race left to go. And Mayor Quemby then, he's quite comfortable out in front. He doesn't need to push, so he can take it easy. Let Camo Babo, catch up a little bit if that will help him save his tyres. But as we go over the Anderson Bridge on the other side than what we used to, as you said earlier on, I hate that little right-hand kink before the hairpin as well. Like I really don't like that bit of track. But
it's
a bit fiddly.
It's very easy just to catch one of the walls as well. You catch the right-hand side as you go through the kink. Obviously, it will damage the car. Sometimes you might just turn it a bit too soon, just have the rear tyre clip the inside wall and spins your car around. Meanwhile, Chris has broken the 3-second gap to Mick Schumacher. It's already 4 seconds. It did look like he was making quite a bit of inroads on Jacko in P4, but the gap has stabilised, so I don't think there's going to be anything happening there, as Blair Grills pits from P10.
No way.
So maybe he's going for a fastest lap.
He's no way.
That explains that reason then.
Is that another yellow flag? Is that Red Bull Kim? It is. Does he have
he was just letting the car a lap up, just overtaking before the tunnel grandstand, PK corner, as some might refer to it as, just making sure to stay out of the way, not hold the car in front up through the last bit of the circuit.
Which of course. Oh, sorry, go on, what were you saying?
No, it's alright.
Well, I say we have a battle. I spoke a little too soon, apologies. We should have a battle because Blair Grills has come out of the pits on soft tyres, fresh soft tyres. He's just been overtaken by Red Bull Kim. So let's see how quickly he can reel the Haas driver in, and we may see our first overtake in a good few laps. As the field really is spread out. Like, that is an interval between between each car. These two are the closest cars on track. So it's a very spread out field with just the 11 cars left in it. Of course, the big name casualty is Wet Lemons. Parsa, of course, is another big name who has dropped out of the race, but Red Bull Kim misses the corner and kind of denied a bit of a battle there. But yeah, Blair Grills, you would imagine, is now favourite for fastest lap as long as he doesn't lose any more of his wing. But we do have a yellow flag. It's now gone away. Not sure what that was for.
That was Kim getting out of the way for Chris Johnson, who was just approaching the barrel for P10. So
okay.
He's just getting out of the way. He's very generous with giving way for the faster cars, so you've got to respect that. Doesn't cause any unnecessary accidents with being lapped, so that's fair play for Red Bull Kim. The gap at the front is maintained at around 2.6. I think Camo Babo's just settled in for second. He knows his main rival is out. He knows that this is a good haul of points. He doesn't need to make a silly accident trying to close up to the lead to take the win. He can settle for 18 points here. It's a big advantage in the championship. It's going to be 36 points clear, as your maths would suggest. Could be 37 if he's got the fastest lap, which at the moment belongs to Owen in the lead, who's set a 1:39.9. The next quickest is actually M-Shep, who's only a tenth off, so M-Shep has good pace, just has a couple of incidents at times that costs him a bit. Blair Grills wasn't really going anywhere with his first lap on the softs as well, the 1:41, so that's not going to treble the fastest lap point. As we come towards the start of the penultimate lap, and it's looking like a fairly comfortable win for Owen as it stands, but it's a big dent in Wet Lemons' title hopes if Camo Babo keeps it out of trouble and takes P2.
Yeah, and that's the thing. There's only 3 races left, I believe. I think this is race 19. So that's 12 points per race. He's going to need something like this to happen to Camo Babo probably twice, if we're honest. He's going to, and of course he'll have to do well himself. Just 3 races left in the season as Blair Grills crosses the line, and yeah, he still failed to set a fastest lap. So he may give it one more go, but Owen then on for maximum points with 2.5 second lead. He can afford to lose a little bit of time, just take it easy, because he's not going to be under any immediate threat from Camo Babo unless he makes a mistake. Chris Johnson very much clear of Mick Schumacher.
Yeah, he's definitely closed in on Jacko. The gap's gone from 7 seconds to 4, but he's going to run out of laps to really cause the Alfa Romeo driver any trouble. It's quite a tame Singapore from previous seasons. Compared to previous seasons, sometimes it can get absolutely wild here, all sorts of drama going on, but it's been quite a calm, settled one after the first few laps. A couple of VSCs, no safety cars. Yeah, just a long, leisurely stroll for some of these guys as well, like Owen, Camo Babo. Daniel P. Wilnut has just been on his own for the entire Grand Prix, it feels like. Jacko, who is getting closed in quite significantly. It's been a good 6-7 tenths this lap so far, but of course we're starting the final lap now for the leaders, so I don't see, unless there's any drama that befalls the Alfa Romeo or Jacko in P4, I can't see the 2 positions there making a change. Also bear in mind Chris's penalty means he's going to have to get ahead and get 3 seconds. I just can't see 5.8 seconds being overhauled in 1 lap. So we're on to the final lap. Owen looking good for the win. He's just got to keep it out of trouble now, and I think he'll do that quite well.
Yeah, he just needs to keep his head, and runs a little bit wide at the former Singapore thing, but all under control. Just needs to get to the end now. He's got a 3.5 second lead. I think Camo Babo has the exact same mindset. You know, he just needs to get it home. He's not going to overtake Owen. Owen had the pace. It's a hard track to overtake at anyway. So Mayor Quenby then is in the final sector of the final lap, and what a drive it has been from the Englishman. I think he started. Where did he start in this race? I think it was
He's P6.
P6. So I thought it was slightly higher than that. So yeah, that's it's even more impressive compared to what I thought it was. But yeah, this has been a brilliant performance from the Mercedes driver. He's got 2 more corners to go. Don't want to call it too soon, but across the line then, here we go. Owen Quenby wins in Singapore. A fantastic race from the Mercedes driver. 4.5 seconds clear, effectively, of Camo Babo in the Alpine. Daniel P. Wheelnut faded quite a bit. I think another driver just settling for position, and still an impressive podium nonetheless. He's made it to the finish, which is more than some can say. Jacko then, a fairly isolated race in P4, slightly less isolated towards the end there. Chris Johnson could have done with a few more laps, and probably could have actually done with pitting under the VSC, but anyway, Jacko then P4, Chris Johnson in 5th. I think he'll be happy with that, but you have to think, yeah, it probably should have been P4. We have Haas crashing in the background. Is that Sayer Sports?
No. It's Red Bull Kim. He's overshot the braking zone under the grandstand. I'll tell you what, there was a great battle, just obviously sort of overshadowed by the leaders finishing the race. Sayer Sports and Indecisive Mackie having a good scrap for P7 on the final lap. Joe's made the position, but he's got to get a 3-second gap to Indecisive. It's going to be very close, very close. I don't think he's going to put it off though. The gap's 2.3, 2.4, 2.5, and it's not enough. Mackie will take that P7.
Shep then, bit of understeer there. Is that damage, or did he just overshoot the corner? Either way, it's not going to change its position. 24 seconds behind the car in front, 38 ahead of the car behind. Actually, they've finished because they've been lapped. So Shep, even if he were to DNF, would finish in P9. So, a bit of a tame event. But nonetheless, I'm sure when you're driving it, you will feel the tension. I think Mayor Quenby then, knowing his tendency to make some unforced errors towards the end of races, I think he'll be very, very happy with that performance, and deservedly so. Driver of the day as well, and I think for the first time in TGP we see the Malaysian flag at the at the top of the podium, as he sprays the champagne after a job well done.
It's also as close to a home Grand Prix as you could get if you're Malaysia, because it's right across the border from Singapore, I believe. So,
and of course the Malaysian Grand Prix was cancelled. So, but yeah, it's I do miss Sepang, gotta say. But yeah, Singapore, the little island just off the south of Malaysia. So just hop across the strait and you're in Singapore. But yeah, Mayor Quenby then representing Singapore, representing Malaysia, wins the race. I'm sure Alex Young will be very pleased indeed. Camo Babo then doing his championship very well by finishing in P2. Wheelnut was third, and well, I'll just flick through the rest of the grid because I don't quite have the time. But the big key the big talking point, I should say, is that Wet Lemons didn't finish and only scored 3 points.
And also on top of that, if results go his way here in Australia, if it's definitely 3 races to go, which we believe it is indeed, Camo Babo can win the title here. He needs to outscore Wet Lemons by, let me just get my maths right, 17 points. So that would be a win and a P7, P8, I believe. He's also got to outscore... Camo Babo's also got to outscore Daniel P. Wheelnut by 14 points, which would be if he won the race with a fastest lap that's included as well. And it's a failure to reach a top 5 for Daniel P. Wheelnut. So it's the first opportunity for Camo Babo to grab the T2P2 title. It will be his first, of course. I think for any of the 3 title contenders that are still in with a chance, it would be their first title. So It's an opportunity here for Camo Barrow. He's just got to keep it tidy, hope for a bit of luck his way. Of course, if it went like it did in Singapore, he'd be very, very close, but Daniel P. would keep in the hunt by the skin of his teeth. But there's a chance here for a new champion tonight.
Yeah, I wasn't quite expecting that. When you mentioned, I was like, oh yeah, we're quite close to the end. Um, yeah, it's a good thing you've got some permutations worked out because I do not. Or certainly at the moment anyway. We've got a qualifying session. We can use a bit of that to do that. But well, it sounds like you've already got it sorted out. But
I'm going to be honest, I've kind of worked that out on the spot, so it could be a little bit off here or there. So let's not take that as concrete. I know it's definitely a chance to win a title. I just don't quite know the positions that Camo Barrow needs for the title rivals for the title.
well, let's see. Wet Lemons has won 6 races this season compared to Camo's 4. So Wet Lemons can still win on countback. So
Yeah, he needs to be 53 points clear of his 2 rivals after this round. Of course, 25 for a win, 1 for a bonus point. So after this race, there's a maximum of 52 left.
yeah, so if it's 53 clear, then
it's all over.
It's all over. So that is 17, yeah, 36. Yeah,
I think so.
So
so the outgoing champion Theo Hickman is back in for Australia in the Williams, and we've also got Cena joining us for race 2 in the AlphaTauri. So both of them missed Singapore, but they're back here for Australia. And I've got to admit, I love this circuit. I always prefer it as the first round of the season. I don't like that Bahrain always gets the opening round now. For me, it was kind of always tradition for an early start, 4 or 5 a.m. in the UK to get up, watch the race in Australia, Albert Park. It just always felt right. There's Cena almost threw it straight in the barrier coming up the pits. He's saved it. He's still circuits. He's no harm done. He's heated the tyres up quite well low in the process, I'll admit. Might need to just clean him up a little bit, having just gone on the grass as he had a half spin.
Yeah, I've got to say, Australia, it's a race. I normally don't really like waking up early for Grand Prix, but the Australian Grand Prix, when it was the first round of the season, I could make some exceptions for. But yeah, now it's just kind of in awkward no man's land. It's kind of just round 3 of the 2022 season, but it won't look like this, I can tell you that. It'll be a much, much quicker circuit. Well, to be honest, the speeds we get will be more like Jeddah than what we see here, so should be quite an interesting venue, to say the least, when we eventually see it. And is that valid for Wet Lemons? It is.
If we go on board with General P. Wilmot right now, he's coming towards the corner that will no longer exist. You see the slight tarmac runoff. That's more the line they're going to take from now on. The Australian Grand Prix, the line that probably in the early days of playing F1 games back on the PS2, maybe the PS1 even, if you're my age, you just cut the inside, go around that tarmac, and then just be on your way. Theo and Blair Grill's out of the session. I don't know what's happened to Theo there, but he's crashed on the way into turn 1, coming out the pits, and it's just thrown Cena right off because the ghosty car is on the braking zone, and Cena has taken a route most of the field took in 2002 and got straight on at turn 1, straight into the gravel trap. It's done well to keep out of the wall, but yeah, that's going to throw a lot of people off. The car is now cleared, but that's a curious place for a DNF.
Yeah, not something we're used to seeing at all. Just quickly see who we got on a lap. One that is actually valid would be nice. Kaya sets our first lap of the session then. Chris Johnson is on a lap. See, there's a lot of blue cars. It's hard for me to distinguish which one's which. Struggling with my glasses on, but Kaya then so far with the only valid lap of the session. I think we have, it's an AlphaTauri. Is that M-Shep? It is indeed, but his lap is not valid. He's going again, he's on the medium tyres. So maybe going for something a bit different, but I think Chris Johnson, no, he's invalidated his lap as well. So
Cena behind. and so he's passing behind him. I think the one to look at the moment
Merrick Quenby.
could be Daniel P. Wilnut. He's on a lap. He's coming into the final sector now. Still valid on the soft tyres. Coming towards the last couple of corners. I do just love the layout of this circuit. I know it's changing, but it's just always been such a fun circuit to drive on. A bit more of a challenge in recent years. The second to last corner is always a bit of a challenge. It's a lot slower than you think it is. Easy to just out-brake yourself, just run onto the grass. It really throws your lap time in the gutter. As Daniel P. Wilnut sets the first representable time of the field with 1:24.5.
Sierra Sports across the line in his Haas and sets an even quicker time. Merrick Quenby just about to scroll down to him in time. It's a 23.7, it's 4/10 clear. And Wheelnut goes... Actually, no, sorry, it's Red Bull Kim who puts a lap in there, as does Stereogram. So we are a third of the way through the session almost, and we only have 6 laps on the board, and we have 2 retirements. So Australia, to be honest, I normally would agree with your point about Australia being very fun to drive. Not so much on this game, I find. I'm not the biggest fan of the curbs and what have you, as Camo Babo then sets a new provisional pole time. But yeah, I used to love it back in the day with the skinnier cars. You know, the cars that had a bit more, you know, initial responsiveness to them. I think these cars are just a bit big. But oh, that's another crash. Jacko is retired. So
what's happened is Mackie has spun at the turn 4, and I think this might have been one of the corners you might have been referring to. Very easy to spin the car out. Mackie's stuck in the middle of the road. Jacko's come across around the corner because it's a blank corner, and there's just an Alpine sitting in the wall. He's lost it and thrown it in the wall himself, trying to avoid. So he's out the session. Mackie's now out the session. So that's 4 retirements already.
I think Mackie's steering column failed there. He's just gone straight into the wall as Parsa invalidates a lap, which I thought was an in lap, but then again, Parsa has this habit of going for more than one lap, so who knows. But Parsa kind of missed that a little bit. He is on provisional pole. And Wet Lemons
same
is
corner.
out.
Same corner. Hit the tarmac, it's lost control, straight in the wall. Well, you're saying you don't like the curbs, and I can tell you it's turn 5, not turn 4 as I called it before. Turn 5 is a very tricky corner, and Pass has gone at turn 9 and 10, which is the other one. Both Ferraris out within 30 seconds of each other at the 2 danger points of the circuit. The exit of turn 10 and the exit of turn 5.
That's crazy.
What a disaster.
Turn 5 was never really a corner to consider in previous editions, but now suddenly it's well, not a very nice corner, and certainly will bite if you try to take your liberties with it. But who's actually on a lap? Who's actually left in the session to the point? Red Bull Kim is on a lap. Let's have a look. He's running out of fuel, so he's going to have to pit. So he's not on a lap either. So we have 9 cars, 9 drivers who have set a lap. At most, we will get 12.
It's turned a bit 2015 here, isn't it? Where we lost about a quarter of the grid before the race had even started.
I thought we lost another one there. I thought Kaya had, well, it looked like he had a spin or some kind of excursion, but he's still in the session. And actually, Kaya is currently lining up P7 on the grid. I think
Kim's
the ones,
P8.
Yeah, Red Bull Kim, P8, Stereogram, P9. Wet Lemons is in the top 10 despite not setting a time. So, drivers finding it quite difficult out there. M. Shep then, he is starting a lap, and I think without any disrespect to Kaya, Red Bull Kim and Stereogram, I think M. Shep, Mick Schumacher and Chris Johnson, if they can get it together, will usually find themselves ahead of those drivers on the grid. So who knows though. I think Kaya may still find himself in the top 10 come the end of this session, because it's a session of attrition, and we have another bit of attrition it seems on the track. We've got a yellow flag. I think that may have just been a car backing off on their outlap, but M-Shep then he's kept it valid so far.
Yeah, that was Stereogram. He's just taking it cautious on the outlap. Shep, I'll tell you, through turn 5, very, very cautious. Lifted, not really taking too much of the curb. He's just trying to get a lap on the board, and I can understand that. With the amount of cars out already, I think that's the best thing to do is just for the first lap, just get a time in, get yourself on the board, and then start to push when you can. As Kaya's now gone off at 10, is it 9 and 10 or 10, 11? Regardless, it's the
11,
left, right?
I think.
Turn 11. He's gone off, kept it out the wall. The McLaren is looking a bit dirty. He's going to need to clean that. He's just had to dive out the way of Chris Johnson, who's on the lap. M-Shep's gone P6, by the way, just 3 thousandths off Saya Sports. And M-Shep, I think, if he pushes, could probably challenge for P3, P4, because he was very cautious on that lap in places, and it's still a decent time.
Yeah, he's got that lap in now, so he may as well go for it. Also, I do want to correct myself. You were right initially. It's actually, yeah, it's 11 and 12. But Chris Johnson, P3. Don't think he's ever qualified that high this season. I think maybe his highest qualifying position is possibly 4th. I can't quite recall. But Chris Johnson then, not normally used to being that high up. And it just goes to show, I think if you just put a lap together around here, you can find yourself in a pretty handy position. Mick Schumacher then is the only driver still in the session who has not set a time. So,
I could also tell you Owen's just gone P2, so you were saying about setting a good time. Owen's just gone and done that. He's just beaten Camo Babo, but Camo Babo is flying. He's gone purple in Sector 2. He's nearly half a second up on his best. This is looking good for pole.
looking very good indeed. Just needs to keep it all together in these final 3 corners. This one's easy to run wide at. This next one is easy to brake too late and then put too much throttle on the exit. This one here is easy to spin at because it's a bit of a curb and the power gradually builds as you go through it, but he's got the DRS open, he's cleanly across the line. It's only good enough for P2. He's lost a lot of time in that final sector.
Yeah, he's lost 3 temps, so I was about to say, if he got pole there, if he was to be P1 with fastest lap, Will Knight in P5, Wet Lemons down in 12th, if they finished where they started with Camo Babo and pole into the second, that's the title over, because he would be 54 points clear. Although saying that, that's entirely a mute point immediately. Daniel Peelwood-Nutt's gone 6 temps quicker and put himself P3. So that was a fun little arithmetic that's immediately gone to waste.
Yeah, I was going to say it kind of immediately amounted to nothing there, but we've got Mick Schumacher not quite making the apex, or well, almost made his way into the barrier, but he will set a time which is more than what some of these drivers can say. Sean is now also out of the session, so he's at turn 5 as well. Mick Schumacher finds his way into the top 10, which is dethroned then by Stereogram by 3 thousandths of a second. So Kaya and Stereogram are still in the top 10 in this session. We have another yellow flag. I think that's just a Mercedes backing off a bit, so we don't need to worry about that. And we have another yellow flag. For some reason, we've got a yellow flag for someone coming into the pits, which is totally normal. Well, it's a normal thing to do. It's not normal for a yellow flag to be out, but that Mercedes might be out of fuel. He's just taking it calmly on his in-lap. So who is on a lap? Mick Schumacher's on his in-lap. No, Stereogram's just set lap. Stereogram's in the top 10 on mediums. So, well,
this we said Singapore is tame, Australia's proven to be anything, but also you were correct. Daniel Peelwood was out of fuel. I could just see it on the dash a little bit as he was making his way around slowly. Yeah, this has been a chaotic session. We've only got 10 cars left running out the 17 that started. The pole sitter is out. He's in a barrier. One of the championship contenders is out. He's in a barrier. 5 other guys are out in barriers. Every still got 4 minutes to go.
Oh, Kaya invalidated that lap. That was looking fairly decent for him. He has time to pit, so he can pit, get the fuel back into the car, because I don't think he has the deployment for another lap. So he's got the time, so he should come into the pits. He's electing not to.
I think he's got the field, to be honest.
Yeah, actually, to be honest, he probably does have the fuel. It's just the deployment I'd be a bit concerned about. It's not the most deployment-heavy
It,
circuit, but he will
I
need
was
it.
gonna say, maybe he was just gonna go for a slow, like push lap, slow lap, push lap, but he's still using the ERS, so he's going again. He has time to back off, charge ERS up, and then go again, but he's just decided to go for it. So we'll see how he does as he hits the corner of death and survives, but invalidates. So that's another lap gone. So he would have been better off being. Red Bull Kim's on an improvement. I don't think he's going to gain any positions with this lap, but he's keeping out of trouble as he regularly does. He may have some off-track excursions, but he doesn't really put it all too often. And you know what? He does take P9.
Red Bull Kim up to P9, so on the 5th row we currently have Red Bull Kim and Kaya, and the only ones who deny that are Mick Schumacher and Stereogram. We have a crash, and that's Kaya.
Yep, he's glanced the wall on the exit of turn 11. He's managed to go straight into the gravel trap, bounced off the wall. He's done a bit of damage to his wing, but nothing more, which is astonishing because the way he hit that, I thought that was just end of session. I literally had my head in my hands at that point, and he's going again.
Right, well...
Let's have a look at Joe. P6 on a lap, half a second up. He's looking good to challenge for the second row at the moment.
Kept it valid. It looked a bit ragged though. He was a little bit wide through turn 11 from the angle I saw anyway. And what can the Haas driver do? He's currently in P6, which I think he'd be fairly happy with, so he may as well just push and give it his all. Through the penultimate corner comes the Haas driver, hits the apex quite nicely, doesn't get too loose on the exit, doesn't want to get too loose around this exit here either, and it doesn't look like he has. He's used the deployment a bit early, but Sayer Sports crosses the line, finds time but not any positions. And there's a bit of a gap between Sayer Sports and Chris Johnson though, so that top 5 is looking fairly cemented.
Yeah, he lost a lot of time in the final sector, a good 4 attempts, because he was half a second up at sector 2, and he's only a 10th up at the line on his previous best, so he's got time to find. M-Chef, I tell you, is just going out the pits now. He's going to be cutting it very, very fine to make the line. I think if he pushes, he should just make it, but he's going to be maybe a second or 2 in hand. Red Bull Kim's done for the session, he's entered the pits now, so his work is done. That might be his best quality of the season. P9. Joe's still going, 3 thousandths down in sector 1. Daniel P. Walnut's backed off on this lap. I think he's just rushing to get to the line. Cameron Babbitt's just begun what could be his final lap. It will be his final lap. Joe's still going, P6. I think he's taken out a lot better than he had before, but he's out of VRS near enough, so...
There's a heavy braking zone into the penultimate corner though. He may be fine. He is still regenerating a bit of it.
Oh, Camo Babo's gone at turn 5 as well.
Is he out of the session? Or is he...
He's out of the session.
Well, so Camo Babo then will be no higher than P2. Wet Lemons will be no higher... Well, he just will be 13th. But Sayer Sports then, P4 on the grid, finds a lot of time, nails that final sector, which he didn't do before. We've got Mayor Quenby on a lap. We've got Chris Johnson just starting a lap, so I think Mayor Quenby, despite only being at turn 6, is the highest driver on the grid. The Williams moves nicely out of the way. Doesn't need to be that extreme with it, but Mayor Quenby then, he is on a lap. Daniel P. Wheelnut seemingly has not made the line. He will finish in P3 at best. But Mayor Quenby then, he's on a lap, going through turns 11 and 12, very treacherous corners. It's an allegedly purple sector 2, but that comes up for pretty much everybody, so we'll gloss over that.
No, we won't gloss over that. The gap at the time he's finding could just sneak him onto pole. It's 3 temps, so there is a chance here.
Okay, so that could be a legitimate middle sector, purple middle sector then, and yeah, you are right, he is actually very close to pole position, and if he can just nail this final sector, it could be pole position here in Australia for Mayor Quenby. He crosses the line, and it is pole position. How is that? He's done it by half a second. So Mayor Quenby then, at the very end of the session, well, a rather dominant lap over the rest of the field. Maybe he didn't expect that one, because qualifying is not usually his forte, but he's on pole by half a second. M. Shep will not improve his time. Chris Johnson will not improve his time either. I believe he invalidated his lap. But Mayor
Um,
Quenby then, in the dying moment of the session, takes pole position.
Stunning lap indeed. Both M. Shep and Chris Johnson both went off at turn 11, turn 12 on the exit. I haven't mentioned this because we were so caught up in the drama of qualifying. This is not going to be the weather conditions for the race, I'll have you know. It is a wet race.
Well.
Oh, this is exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
We haven't even got to the race yet.
Like, let's be honest, Singapore wasn't great, but this may make up for it. I mean, sometimes it just happens. Usually TGP2, of course, we do get a lot of action, but sometimes it just happens like that where we get a bit of a field spread. But hopefully, with Australia here in wet conditions, we will have no such dramas because this track's tricky enough, as we've seen from this qualifying session. It's tricky enough to handle in the dry, so when it's wet, it throws a whole different level of uncertainty. Every lap will be a challenge, regardless of whether you're on your own or in a 6-car scrap. So your grid then for this race, Mayor Quenby by just under half a second ahead of Parsa. Parsa, I mean, who knows, he could have been right up there had he not crashed early on in the session, but that banker lap that Parsa set was good enough for the front row in the end. Kamababo P3, I suppose he'll be happy with that, given the circumstances of the context of the championship. Wheelnut is in P4, still an outside chance of this title, although I suppose both Wet Lemons and Wheelnut are outside chances at this point. Sarah Sports an impressive P5, a Chris Johnson in P6, Mick Schumacher is 7th with M. Shep 8th. Cena and Red Bull Kim round out the top 10. Kaya was 11th, but I think the key point is that we have Wet Lemons in P13. We also have Jacko and Theo and Blair Grills at the back of the grid. That is significantly precipitating.
That's wet tyres.
You'd imagine so, but then again, I thought the qualifying session we had in Imola last night would have been wet tyres, but it turned out not to be, so who knows. But actually, that is wet tyres in Mayor Quenby's garage?
That is wet tyres indeed. And they're out the blanket, so I'm definitely going to take that as wet tyres for the field. Thankfully, safety car starts aren't a thing on this game, so...
So then, Mayor Quenby with it all to do, I suppose everybody has it all to do at the start of this race. Getting off the line in these conditions is tricky enough, so I hope everyone plays it a bit safe heading into turn 1 because it looks absolutely treacherous out there. But we get underway now in Australia, and it looks like a pretty decent start from the front, but it's not a decent start for Camo Babo, who has spun a bit off the line and has gone into the wall. Now, the Ferrari goes a bit deep into turn 1. Mayor Quenby does make the corner. Parsa, I believe, has spun in the background or lost just a lot of positions there. He's now down into P6 after starting on the front row. Wheelnut is now up to second.
Camababo's on the grass. Camababo was off the track in the grass. A disaster. So we can throw the possible championship win to here in Australia out the window because I can't see Camababo recover all the way to the front from that. I mean, perfect start. And as the chaos unfolded behind him, Daniel P. Wilmot's made his way through, as you've mentioned, gained a couple spots. Parsa, obviously, having lost a few places. Wet Lemon's already up to P7 as well. Yeah, I tell you what, both Alpines very sideways off the grid. It was the same for Mackie as well. We got yellow flags. It's Camababo. I can't believe he's not out of the race.
What's he done here? Oh god, we've got plenty of incidents. Stereogram's gone for a spin. Camababo, he's trundling around the circuit. Not quite sure what's going on. Wet Lemons is 5th. So
VSC.
Virtual safety car then. Parsa, 5-second penalty. Now we'll have to see what happened there because the
it was a collision with Cena. It was a collision with Cena.
Did Parsa just not react?
I think so. I think it was called very late. It might just call a few people out.
Yeah. So Mayor Quenby then. There's no reason to pit. You'll be on these tyres until the end. But
something Has something gone wrong for Caro Babo's controller as passes off? Has he lost it there? Because I can't even see his car. Oh, he's gone into the wall in the penultimate corner, so...
Even still, I'm not sure how it happened, but Camo Babo. Some drivers are pitting, so you'd imagine they have damage. Theo's in the pits, as is Kaya, Jacko, Chris Johnson, and M-Shep. M-Shep's changing his wing. Chris Johnson.
All of them. All of them.
They're all changing.
Chris Johnson changed wing, Jacko's changing a wing, M-Shep's changing wing, Kaya's changing a wing. It's all for damage.
Theo, well, so a lot of damage then. It was a very hectic first lap. The virtual safety car has ended. Sayer Sports is a good bit closer to Daniel P. Wheelnut than Wheelnut is to Owen. Little bit of field spread once again. Oh, someone's had an incident further back.
Stereograms to the wall at turn 3. Red Bull Kim spun round at turn 3. And Red Bull Kim has got a drive-through for speeding under VSC.
So he's a bit too eager there to be as close to zero on that delta, but unfortunately for him, he fell on the wrong side of zero, and Sayer Sports is getting closer. Stereogram retires from the session. I believe that's a turn 4, so he must have taken a bit too much curb and spun the car around. Race director seems happy enough to keep it under green flag conditions for most of the circuit. But Merrick Quemby then 3 seconds ahead of Daniel P. Wheelnut. Could it be the double for the Mercedes driver in this race? Camo Babo still seems actually I think Camo Babo he's got it back under control now. He's now up to 15th after passing Stereogram's or the site of Stereogram's wreckage as Merrick Quemby crosses the line. Merrick Quemby's at turn 1, Camo Babo is at turn 6 on the previous lap. So that's how far Camo Babo is behind.
He's over a minute down already. It just looked like he might have had some control over it, like some issue with his steering or something. The car was just going straight at places.
We have a crash in the background. It's Cena. He's seemingly taken a bit too much curb at turn 2 and it's pivoted the car around. That's something that can happen to you in dry conditions, so in wet conditions it'd be even worse. Another VSC.
Yeah, but I think that's for the debris from that crash. What a chaotic start.
Wet Lemons is 4th.
Yeah, what a recovery. We were saying it could be a chance of Camo Babo to take the title here. As it stands, he's getting nothing. And his 2 title contenders are going to be right back in it again.
Yeah, I mean, Wheelnut on course to get 18 points. Camo Babo currently scoring nothing, but you'd imagine as long as he just keeps in it. I mean, Red Bull Kim and M-Shep are already in the pit, so he's probably going to gain 2 positions already, so that's going to give him 2 points. But
we're back underway.
We're back underway indeed, and who gets the best restart here? It seems fairly even between the 2 Mercedes drivers, and to be honest, the whole top 4 seem pretty even. Theo and Jacko are battling on the circuit with each other. So Theo then has passed to the Alfa Romeo of Jacko. Theo has a 3-second penalty. Jacko does not at the moment anyway. The yellow flag for an AlphaTauri in the 3rd sector. It's Cena. He's back under control. But Jacko doesn't seem to like wet conditions. They never really seem to suit him.
I think it was Brazil, wasn't it? He just lost a good half a pit stop in a few laps. Cena is really struggling as well, trying to get back to the pits.
Yeah, he's all over the place there. I was kind of hoping to see a better angle because the option was on board or on board, so that wasn't the most helpful. But yeah, Theo then pulling away from Jacko. Jacko just not really with it right now, does not have any kind of pace. So the reigning champion passes his former rival last season. Cena has had enough. He's retired. He's not putting up with these struggles anymore. But Theo then up to P9 after a pretty eventful first lap. I think it was an eventful first lap for most of the grid. But Merrick Quemby was 4.7 seconds clear. But look at this, Wet Lemons. He is someone who would love a safety car, and who knows, we're only on lap 4, believe it or not, despite all the dramas that we've had. As Camo Babo sits the fastest lap, so he's got pace. The yellow flag in sector 1, I think that is for Red Bull.
Theo had a moment.
Theo
had a moment. He got passed by Jacko, who's retaken the position.
Not quite sure what's going on there. So Theo does seem to have the pace, but not the consistency, and the errors are kind of creeping in just a little bit with the wet conditions. But I know from experience, driving in wet conditions on a wheel is not the most simple of tasks. And we have
Wet Lemons going for P3. He's
Wet
just made the
Lemons
move on Joe.
around the outside at turn 1. Wet Lemons then, he's onto the podium. He's up 10 places, and we're only on the start of lap 5, and we've had 2 virtual safety cars, and he's on the back of wheel nut already. So
yeah, I'll tell you what, he just looks supremely confident. His lap time wasn't even that far off Owens, and he was stuck behind 2 other cars. On top of that, of course, he was in TGP1 yesterday, or wet in the race, and he was running second for a majority of it as well. Obviously, a penalty took him off the podium at the end. It put him down to 5th. But he's really, really strong in wet conditions.
Wheel nut struggling in the wet conditions, going very deep through turn 9. And Wet Lemons goes around the outside with the much better traction, and he's already up into P2. 6.7 seconds, let's remember that. That's the gap at the end of the second sector for Wet Lemons on lap 5. It's already 6.6, so let's see how the Ferrari driver progresses through this race. Owen can afford to take it a little bit easy because he does have a little bit of a buffer right now, but that buffer could easily be eradicated if we get another safety car. Well, it will be the first safety car of this race, but if we get a safety car, another one tonight, I don't think Mark Wemby would be the biggest fan of it.
I think Owen was a bit too deep into the penultimate corner as well. He's done a 1:37.5. Wet Lemons coming across in that line now has done a 1:30. He's gone quicker than Owen, despite passing 2 cars in the process of that lap.
So Wet Lemons then with supreme pace, and Kamababo is on course to score 3. Wet Lemons could be on course to score 25, which would bring the gap down to 14, which is 2 race wins. So that's as in 2 race wins, as in, you know, if Wet Lemons is first and Kamababo second, assuming neither of them get the fastest lap, that is 14 points, and Wet Lemons has the advantage on countback. But he has to win first. We're not even halfway through this race, so let's not get ahead of ourselves here. But it is looking pretty good, and Will not keeping himself in the fight as well, because he's still on the podium under a bit of threat from Sayre Sports. Sayre Sports does seem to have more pace than the Mercedes driver, but this is a difficult track to overtake at when it's dry, when we have DRS, but we do not have DRS, and traction, especially in dirty air, is very hard to come by.
We do have a battle for P5 though. Black Grills has been closing onto the back of Mick Schumacher throughout the last couple of laps. Got right behind him into the curved back straight, but just caught the back of him in the wrong place and had to back off a little bit. But the Aston Martin looking very quick compared to the Red Bull in front of him at the moment. He's managed to get into the corners a lot better as well. He could be shaping up for a move here into the penultimate corner. I mean, it's his fastest lap of the race of the 1:36.5.
Bit of retaliation.
And Wet Lemons is 4 tenths slower, so Owen's stepped it up a bit. So maybe he's got pace in his pocket.
Yeah, it does seem like it. Owen does like the wet conditions, which I find a bit ironic though for someone who has spun so many times in dry conditions, that he's very quick when it's wet. But Cena really has had enough, so off he goes. But Blair Grills then getting a much better exit compared to Marco ahead of him. Marco needs to make his mind up as to where he's going. Seems to want the racing line. Blair Grills not feeling confident enough to go down the inside of turn 3. I don't blame him. You don't really have a lot of breathing room at turn 3, especially with these big wide cars. Sayre Sports picks up a penalty, so if he's going to pass Wheelnut, he's going to have to do it pretty soon. But yeah, turn 3, it's not the best overtaking spot. It's going to be widened for this season's Grand Prix in real life. But yeah, you don't have a lot of room to outbrake yourself, and the results are very costly because you go into the grass. And speaking of going into the grass, Mick Schumacher goes very deep. Blair Grills picks up a 3-second penalty because he went too wide. Probably could have got a bit of a run on the Red Bull ahead had he not done that. But that's a lot of curve from Blair Grills. Got to be careful on the traction. Mick Schumacher gets the better exit and will retain P5 for at least another few corners.
There's two people who are really, really struggling in these conditions at the moment, going by lap times. Theo Hickman and Jacko, they've been close together for 9th and 10th, but they are 5 seconds a lap slower than the two leaders at the moment. And Camo Babo is into clearer behind, and I feel he's going to catch up very quickly.
Yeah, it's a strange one from Theo. Jacko, I think, more consistently struggles in the wet. I don't think wet conditions are his thing at all. But Theo then, as Jacko kind of hits the wall all by himself,
And Blair Grill's closing on Mick again.
I think that's damage for Jacko there, but he didn't. That was his own fault. But Blair Grills, yeah, he's clearly quicker than the Red Bull in front, but he just can't string it together. And when you've got dirty air, it's just so hard to overtake people in these kind of conditions. And Jacko then is still all over the back of Theo, tries to go around the outside of the Alfa Romeo driver, and Theo then...
He's just struggling, isn't he? Blair Grill's low. Let's go back to the Blair Grill's battle because he's half the gap. And I think he's just very strong in the second sector. Mick Schumacher's gone wide. Oh, he's just tapped the back of the Red Bull. Mick Schumacher went wide into the corner. And as he's coming back onto the track a little bit, Blair Grill's just trying to take his line, just went in a bit deep himself and just followed him in a bit. And that's the thing with wet conditions. It's very easy to just sort of follow the car in front. You follow its lines, same braking zones, and you just sort of get suckered into following them rather than looking at different places to try and make a move on them. I think that's definitely what's happening in the fight for fifth at the moment. Meanwhile, the top two are just pulling away from the fight for third between Daniel Wheelnut and Sayer Sports. The gap's already 7 seconds between second and third, but Owen is consistently maintaining the gap at around 6 seconds, so he's looking good for the double.
Yeah, he's looking very good for the double. 6 seconds in the lead, so he's got enough of a buffer to just, well, keep it calm, really. Just like he did in Singapore, like he's got the advantage. Wet Lemons then, it looks like he's on par with Owen, but the problem is when you start 13th versus starting on pole position, you're going to be compromised. And whilst Wet Lemons did, I think it was lap 5, he managed to get himself up into P2. Well, it just wasn't quick enough, and Owen was already gone at that point. So Theo and Jacko then still P9 and P10, but Blair Grail still behind Mick Schumacher. Mick Schumacher getting a terrible exit, and Blair Grail's getting caught out by the lack of traction from the Red Bull in front. Theo and Jacko are now joined by Camo Babo in the Alpine. Camo Babo had an absolutely shocking start to the race, crashed into the wall at the very start. Jacko goes very deep at turn 3. Can Camo Babo go around the outside of turn 4? Not quite. He'll get better traction on the run into turn 5. Now, will he go up the inside of turn 5? Yes, he will. Jacko then tries to turn into the corner, but it's not happening. Wet Lemon sets the fastest lap of the race. The gap's now down to 5.9 seconds. He's going to have to do a lot more than that, though, to catch up to Owen. But Jacko then has been overtaken by Theo Hickman. Or, well, she was overtaken by Theo Hickman a long time ago. Camo Babo has now just passed him. Now, how quickly can Camo Babo get past Theo Hickman?
Ooh, Chris Johnson's just going for 7th as well. Mackey's gone deep into the penultimate corner. Chris Johnson around the outside into the final corner. That's a good move there from the Aston Martin driver. He's now up to P7.
Yeah, so Chris Johnson then having another solid event. So maybe not the pace, but he's got the got his head screwed on. So P7 it is for the Aston Martin driver. Sayer Sports has dropped off from Wheelnut a bit now. So Blair Grills and Mick Schumacher really is the battle to be watching right now. Camo Babo's actually already passed Theo, so he's up into P9. Blair Grills then still behind. I mean, I gotta say though, Mick Schumacher is doing everything that he needs to do. He's got no penalty. He's running in the top 5. He's defending from Blair Grills in these conditions. So it is an impressive drive from the German. So I think he'll be very pleased with this. Even if he is P6, it's still impressive because Chris Johnson is nowhere near them. So he's kept himself out of trouble so far, and with such a tight battle, there's plenty of trouble that could be brought on.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It is worth pointing out Chris Johnson obviously did have damage on the opening lap, so he had to pit. So, while that does explain why Blair Grills is ahead, he's obviously keeping it out of trouble, and I think he's maintained the gap pretty well. I don't think Chris is really closing it too much. I mean, I can't see him gaining 15 seconds in 5 laps. So I think that will be a strong performance from Blair Grills. It is a strong performance from Blair Grills. Hopefully he can make his way past Mick Schumacher without me cursing him by getting him a penalty.
Yeah, he's going to need 6 seconds now. I think that was the second penalty of the race, so he's going to have to kind of hope for a bit of a mistake from Mick Schumacher and none more from himself. But so the gap out in front is pretty stable still. I mean, it's impressive actually how the two of these drivers out in front just have pretty stable pace between the two of them. So that's always great to see. But 3-second penalty for Jacko for track extending.
It's just worth pointing out as well with Lemons and Owen, their fastest laps are 2 seconds a lap quicker than pretty much the rest of the field. 3 seconds in places, with the exception of Camo Babo, who's a second and a half slower with his best, and M Shep, who is a second and a half off. So the pace they are doing is astonishing. And it's not just a one-off lap, because Wet Lemons has just done another 36. And of course, his gap to the car in front is not really that different. We've got yellow flags out. It is for Red Bull Kim, though, who's just getting out of the way, because I was just mentioning it because that was right where the leader was, but thankfully nothing has happened to the race leader at the moment. He's just got a couple of lap cars in his way that he's just looking to get through.
Yeah, I was worried that I might be Sayre Sports because he's having a very impressive race up in P4, and you see the Haas go very slowly. We have a yellow flag in Sector 2. It's still Red Bull Kim, maybe moving out of the way of the other drivers. Red Bull Kim, he's in the points, so he's going to be classified as 14th. I suppose worst case scenario for him, unless any drivers ahead manage to DNF, he will move further up. But
I can tell you one who almost did, that was Mackie. He's just gone off at the penultimate corner. He's broke his wing, but he is in the pit lane. He's not out of the race. But that's going to be another position for Camo Babo, as Camo Babo's just rounded the final corner now.
Kaya's had an incident, it seems, but I think he will be okay. Don't think he has any damage, as Camo Babo passes his teammate who is in the pits. And I'd imagine Theo will also do the same.
Ooh.
Yeah, Theo will pass, as will Jacko. So Intel's Mackie is now down into P11.
He's also on the intermediates.
Oh, okay. Well, that's interesting. And Blair Grills.
That's a bold call.
Blair Grills has had enough, and Mick Schumacher has been passed by the Aston Martin driver. Now, how quickly can he actually pull away? Because, of course, Mick Schumacher probably would have been driving a bit defensively and, driving while looking in his mirrors more so than ahead of him. So Mick Schumacher may up the pace as Red Bull Kim moves out the way of Kaya.
Gets a 10-second penalty for his troubles.
Not very effectively, evidently, but all is under control. So ignore those yellow flags. He's all good. But Blair Grills then already 1.2 seconds clear of Marco in P6. He does need a 6-second gap though.
Oh, Jacko has spun off at the exit of turn 6, and he's lost his wing in the process.
So Jacko then is about to be overtaken by Kaya in the McLaren. Kaya thought about going up the inside there, but that wasn't going to work. Jacko, well, I mean, there's no fight that he can put up there. He's got no wing. So Jacko then P13. Will probably stay that way because Red Bull Kim is a lap behind him. But Owen then, he's stretched the gap out to 6.7, 6.8 seconds. So he's still looking comfortable out there. Mick Schumacher losing a lot of time to Blair Grills. I don't think he'll quite lose 6 seconds on this at this current rate. But it may be tight come the end of this actually. But we'll have to see. Blair Grills will probably have to push because, I mean, even if Blair Grills has a bit of a spin, he'll probably still remain in the top 6. Although Chris Johnson is closing in a little bit. Chris Johnson's kind of closing in on Mick Schumacher. Not so much Blair Grills anymore now that he's got clean air that he was so desperate to have. But yeah, we've a bit more field spread. But unlike Singapore, there's a constant sense of we do not know what's going to happen next.
Yeah, I've just seen yellow flags flash up everywhere. I'm just trying to catch who's going on. It's Theo putting out the way of Wet Lemons and Owen, so that's the reason for that. I'm just trying to keep an eye on the Indecisive Mackie, see how he's doing on the Inters. So M. Shep's done a 32.4, Mackie's 1.4 off. He's a second slower in the first sector of his own previous best, so Inters weren't really the right call, but he's not throwing it into the scenery at the moment. Yeah, I mean, he's just really controlled this race well, hasn't he? Very strong pace, led from the front, got away from the little melee at the start, just filled the gap when someone with similar paces got to second. He's just maintained the gap the entire way through without really looking troubled in the slightest. So it's a rare double tonight for the Mercedes if he survives this final lap, as he's rounded the corner to begin the final lap.
Yeah, it's been exemplary from Owen, from Mayor Quenby. Winning from P6 on the grid in Singapore, a track which, where track position is normally seen as quite crucial. So incredibly impressive there. Wet Lemons does set the quickest lap of the race, but he's not going to be quick enough. Owen can afford to take it very easy on this final lap. So yeah, and then he in wet conditions as well, he's had two major challenges thrown at him. So starting P6 in Singapore, where track position is key, starting from pole position in wet conditions around Australia. Yeah, nailed the start and has just, basically nailed every lap since. So yeah, hats off to him. It's a pity he wasn't around for the full season. He could have got right in there with the title fight, because let's be honest, he has also had some moments of inconsistency himself. So he would not have run away with the championship. But yeah, it's been great to see Owen at his best, crossing the second sector line. Just got one more sector of this race to go. It's still raining very heavily out there, but I think the drivers are sort of getting used to it now at this point. So just a few more corners to go from Owen, and they're not corners you normally see crashes at. But hopefully I haven't just jinxed him there. That would be
I think that would be the ultimate curse, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it'd be almost comical at that point. But Owen then, around the final corner here at Albert Park, it's been an absolutely dominant display from the Mercedes driver. Once again, he weaves across the line. Don't weave too aggressively, Owen. Be careful out there. But Owen wins in Australia. Fantastic drive yet again. Wet Lemons crosses the line to finish in P2, keeping his championship more than alive. And Daniel P. Whelan also keeping his championship hopes alive, because even though he was a good 23 seconds off P2, he's still on the podium and still outscores Camo Babo by a good chunk of points. Maybe still a bit of an outside chance, if we're honest, but because Camo Babo, of course, actually worked his way back up to 8th. But Daniel P. Whelan in P3. Sayer Sports, a very impressive P4. Will he keep that? I believe he will. A bit of an incident across the line for, I think that was Kaya. But Blair Grills is 5th. And actually, yeah, Mick Schumacher is way back. He's nearly 10 seconds behind Blair Grills. So Mick Schumacher then P6. But still an impressive drive nonetheless. Chris Johnson actually put him under a good bit of pressure towards the end. Camo Babo, absolute disaster in the first few laps of the race. The championship leader, still the championship leader, of course. Not quite sure how many points you get for 8th. I think it's 7. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, but
I do believe it to be 7.
Okay, so that's 11 points. So the gap is now 25.
Yep,
so
25.
He's still got a comfortable barrier. He's not quite sure what's happened there. Maybe his controller issue was returned. But that's one race win in terms of points. But certainly not over for Wet Lemons. He's been given driver of the day. I can't disagree in a way, because I suppose he had to do the hard bit of moving himself up from P13 in the first place, and he did so by the middle of lap 5. But Owen also worthy of driver of the day. I mean, these two have just been absolutely the class of the field, way quicker than anyone else. The gap was stable between the two of them, trading quicker times with each other. In the end, though, it was Wet Lemons who took the fastest lap by a quarter of a second over Mayor Quenby. But yeah, of course, shout out to Daniel P. Wilnut for keeping the title fight alive. Again, bit of an outside chance. Will kind of need some bad luck for both Wet Lemons and Camo Babo, and also to have a good race of his own. But still in the hunt. Sayer Sports, an impressive P4 with Blair Grills in 5th. Yeah, Mick Schumacher, another impressive drive to finish in 6th. Chris Johnson 7th, Camo Babo 8th. Theo Hickman comes across the line in 9th, with M. Shep rounding out the top 10. Kaya was 11th, Indecisive Mackie 12th. Jacko, despite being 2 laps down, will get 2 points. Red Bull Kim had quite the eventful race out there and will score the final point. Cena, Stereogram and Parsa have all crashed out of the race and will therefore score no points. Actually, I believe Cena just retired anyway, but his race was effectively over anyway. But yeah, not the race of attrition I expected though.
No, not compared to qualifying. In terms of the championship, then, Camo Babo has a 25-point lead over Wet Lemons with 52 left available, and I believe Daniel P. Wilmot is 31 points off the lead. So it's a three-way fight going into the final week of the season. Of course, the advantage very much with Camo Babo. He just needs to finish ahead of both his title rivals at the next Grand Prix, and it's over, provided he's in the points.
Well, yes, but yeah, certainly still looking good for Camo Babo, but it's certainly not over. So Wet Lemons will be hoping for a very strong week next week, and yeah, I believe it'll be I believe it's Jeddah and Yas Marina. Do correct me if I'm wrong on that one. So we're heading off. Well, we're heading off to Arabia. So hopefully we will see you there for the final round of the season. It's almost kind of hard to believe now where it's finally coming to an end. So that sounded a bit negative. Like, as in, it's just been such a long journey, but now suddenly it's coming to an end, I should say. So hopefully you will join us next week around 7:30 Irish time, British time. And yeah, hopefully some more action, and hopefully a very tasty title fight to come with it. So good night, and we will see you then.